Alright everybody, Mr. Longo here. This is a video on how you graph lines and inequalities. So again, back in the day you learned how to graph some lines, and it was usually in the form of y equals mx plus b, which is your slope and intercept form. When intercept is your y-intercept, which means you start on the y-axis, and then your -2 in this case is your slope. That's how far you rise or run and all of that fun stuff. So we're just going to take this one step at a time. Again, this is something that you covered very, very heavily in Algebra 1 and probably even did some more of it in geometry. So let's go. First thing you do is you plot your y-intercept. So in this case, our y-intercept is a +8. So we're going to go up to the +8 and you're going to put a dot. And then your slope is a -2, which is technically -2 over 1. So whenever your slope is negative, if you are moving to the right, you graph like you write. You work your way from left to right. So if we're starting here, our slope is -2 over 1. This is our vertical, this is our horizontal. So we're going to go down 2 and to the right 1, and you plot a new dot. And then you go down 2 and right 1 and plot a new dot. If you need to go backwards, you have to switch both. So instead of going down 2, you go up 2, and instead of going right 1, you go left 1, because it's going to be a nice straight line. Now back in the day, if you learned that you have to give dots across the entire graph, that is unnecessary. As long as you're good at drawing straight lines, you're good to go. Just make sure you graph across the entire grid that is provided to you. Don't just give me a little graph that looks like that and stop. Not acceptable. However, I don't need to see dots on every single one of them. Use a straight edge if needs to, but if you want to do dots across the whole thing, that is fine by me too. Okay? Next one. 3/2 x minus 6. -6 is our y-intercept, so we're going to go to -6 and we're going to plot that dot first. Now our slope is 3/2. That means up 3, right 2. So we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, and to the right 2. We're going to plot a new dot. If you're going to go backwards, you're going to go down 1, 2, 3, and left 1, 2. And you already have enough. Again, if you want to graph more, you go right ahead. This is just to make sure you know what's going on. Next one. Y is equal to 2. Now a little bit of confusion happens with this because y is equal to 2. We know our y-axis is vertical. But when you're graphing a y equals equation, it's going to be horizontal. Here's why. So you go to y equals 2 and you plot your dot. And then a lot of people want to say, oh, y-axis is vertical, so I need to graph a vertical line. Well, then you're just going to be right on top of the y-axis. What you need to do is you need to go horizontal. And it's because y must always equal 2. So here's a dot, that's -8, 2. Here's another dot, this is 8, 2. Here's 10, 2. Y is always 2. So that's why it's a horizontal line. And then when we get to our x equals equations, notice there's no slope here. It's just x is equal to a -6, which means at all times, x must equal a -6. So x equals equations are vertical lines. So we're going to go to our -6, and then we're going to graph a vertical line. Now, if you were to plot any dot on that purple line, the x-coordinate will be a -6. Here's a -6, 10. Here's a -6, -3. X will always be a -6. Okay? So that's your basics on graphing lines. So what happens if it's not given to you in slope-intercept form? Well, all you have to do is manipulate. You just have to get y by itself. So for this guy, 3x plus y is equal to 4. So all you need to do is say y is equal to a -3x plus 4. How did I get that? Well, all we're doing is getting y by itself. So just like an algebraic equation, if you're moving something to the other side of an equal sign, you just have to do the opposite operation. So a positive 3x, you just have to subtract 3x from both sides. And that's how you get a negative 3x plus 4. So then you would just go to your plus 4, go down 3 over 1, down 3 over 1. You get the idea, graph it, go across the entire grid, you are good to go. And in the next one, you would do the exact same thing. You just have to get y by itself. So you would add 2x to both sides, and that would give you 3y is equal to 2x minus 15. Y still needs to be by itself, so you have to divide everything by the 3. That will give you y is equal to 2/3 x minus 5. Now you are in slope-intercept form, so you can go and plot your negative 5, and then go up 2 over 3 and graph your line. All right, so that's graphing lines, whether you're in slope-intercept form or not. The last thing is inequalities. Now, you can't graph a linear inequality if you don't know how to graph a line. That's why we start with that. Now, if you know how to graph a line of any kind, then inequalities are simple. There's just one additional step. The first thing you have to do is think about how you want to graph your line. So, something that's included, y is less than or equal to this equation, versus y is greater than but not equal to that equation. The difference is if you have a less than or equal to or a greater than or equal to, you are going to use a solid line. If you are going to work with a greater than or a less than, you need to use a dashed line. It's very similar to the open circle versus closed circle. You just have to know which one is included, which one is not. So for y is less than or equal to 1/2 x plus 2, we graph it the same way. We go to our plus 2, we go up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. Then if we want to go backwards, and your line is going to be a solid line. Now, what do you do after that? Well, after you graph the line, you need to shade. So anything on this line is equal, but if y is less than or equal to this line, then here's where y is greater than, because y goes up as it increases, but y goes down as it's less. So if y is less than this, all you have to do is shade below that line. Okay? So that's how you graph an inequality. It's just an extra step, and you just have to think about what kind of line you're graphing. So this one, y is greater than a negative 3/4 x plus 1. So we go to plus 1, we go down 3, we go over 4, we plot a dot. We go down 3 and over 4, we plot a dot. And now we're going to do a dashed line. The reason, again, it's dashed is because that line is not included. It's like the open circle of a regular inequality. And now we just have to go shade. Since y is greater than, that means y is bigger than this line, which means it's above the line. Okay? So every time you think about greater than and less than, it's just above or below, unless we get to our last example, x is less than 5. So if x is less than 5, again, we're going to have a dashed line at x equals 5. We had just discussed vertical lines. So you can't be above or below this line. That's because x goes left and right. So if x is less than 5, it's just like our linear inequality. If we're going to say x is less than 5, then here's our 5, and we're going to go to the left. If you're graphing a linear inequality, meaning you're on a coordinate plane, then it's just going to be the same idea, except for we're going to shade to the left of this line on the entire grid. So anything in this shaded region is considered less than negative, or less than a 5. Okay? That's it for this video on graphing lines and inequalities. This is Longo and I'm out. See you, bye.